Hey guys, Eckhart Slaughter here with another episode of Star Wars Versus, the series where I take two Star Wars things, put them head to head, and try to predict which one would come out on top. Today we are looking at two droids separated by 4,000 years, and that's HK-47 and IG-88. If the two were to meet and fight it out, which one would win? As always, I'm going to be analyzing these two technological creations in three categories: offensive capabilities, defensive capabilities, and then intangibles. But it's not as strict who gets more categories. I'm looking at the matchup overall. Before I begin, I just want to mention that both of these droids are featured in two of my favorite Star Wars games. IG-88, of course, is featured as a boss in the Ord Mantell junkyard in Shadows of the Empire. HK-47, on the other hand, is a party member in the game Knights of the Old Republic and its sequel, The Sith Lords. Alright, so let's start with weaponry. We'll look first at the terrifying bounty hunter who is IG-88. Although designed with internal weapons, IG-88 typically carried rifles or other external blasters. And most often he would use poisonous gas, paralysis cords, typical repeating blasters, and of course his flamethrower. But it's more than just simple weapons that make IG-88 so deadly. It's actually how he's built, and the first thing that really comes to mind is his vision. He can see in 360 degrees because of his unique and really quite frightening head. He's also very strong and extraordinarily fast. I'm going to talk about his mental quickness and his programming when I get to intangibles. Right now, let's just look at his physical feats. After being created, IG-88 was able to, well unarmed, run through his creation room at blurring speeds, and that's in quote, and then throw a droid arm through the back of a technician, actually piercing his spine. Later on in the same book, he killed 73 human beings in a few minutes before one could even touch the alarm. He's also been shown ripping through doors that are several tons, breaking through steel walls, and of course he can see in various light spectrums and control each aspect of his body individually. HK-47, on the other hand, was designed by Sith Lord Darth Revan as his personal bodyguard and assassin droid. And per his feats, he was able to, and often did, kill Jedi without too much difficulty. Now, like IG-88, HK-47 often typically used external weapons, and his favorite was a droid assassin sniper rifle. However, he also used the typical assassin weaponry, including grenades, gas, mines, things like that. And he was one of the, if not the, most advanced assassin droids during the time of the Old Republic. However, I will say HK-47 is more well suited for fighting Jedi and really for fighting organics than he is for fighting other droids. And we know that because really that's what he's programmed to do, and he uses things like psychological warfare and weapons that are effective against a lightsaber to kill his enemies. None of those things will really be very useful against IG-88. I also don't think that he has the same speed or strength feats as the other droid, so I'm going to give this category to IG-88. Alright, so next we have defensive capabilities, or as I sometimes call it, durability. And I'm going to keep this category pretty short because it's always really hard to compare just how durable something is, and it's usually a pretty nebulous category, but even more so when one of the characters comes from and is primarily in a video game. I will say this: we know that HK-47 is created out of durasteel, which is a very strong metal typically used in the creation of starships. IG-88 is created with duraplated armor, and this is what he says about himself. No simple energy weapon could damage him unless the beam struck exactly the right spot only a few IG-88's original designers knew about, and most of those designers have been slaughtered at the Halloween Laboratories massacre. However, even with this impressive durability, 3 IG-88 models are killed in pretty unimpressive ways. 2 of them are killed by Boba Fett in one-on-one combat, and one of them is killed by Dash Rendar. On the other hand, HK-47 successfully killed probably hundreds of Jedi during the time of the Old Republic. So specification-wise, it seems like IG-88 is stronger. Well, based on feats, it seems like HK-47 is stronger. So for that reason, I'm going to give this category a tie. Okay, so now for intangibles, and I often hear that people think that HK-47 is a more advanced and more well-programmed droid than IG-88. I don't think I necessarily agree with that. I think HK-47 is programmed differently, but the programming in IG-88 is ultimately more deadly. So HK-47 is more like a person, he speaks, he's got some kind of unintentional humor, and that kind of makes it seem like he's very creative. However, the Essential Guide to Droids says this about IG-88. The IG assassin droid is the most coldly efficient killing machine ever invented. Its programmers smugly assumed they could control your creation, gave it unprecedented creativity and intelligence. they paid for their arrogance with their lives. So IG-88 is creative and, he is able to think on the fly, but he doesn't show it in the same way because he's designed solely to kill, not to be kind of a companion. And the new Essential Guide to Characters even says that he was so powerful that he would have been the perfect weapon to battle the Yuzang Vong. It says, his flamethrower, repeating blaster, paralysis cord, and poison canisters would make short work of any opponent. And the finishing touch would be the irony of having a droid decimate the anti-technology Yuzang Vong fanatics. And I mean, IG-88 is so deadly that after his creation, one of the scientists shot a blaster bolt at him, attempting to kill him. IG-88 simply raised his hand, deflecting the bolt back into the head of the creator. And I mean, just like HK-47, IG-88 is born and bred to kill. I mean, he even took over the Death Star, managing to improve the weapon and its aiming, and had the Rebel Alliance not been victorious at the Battle of Endor, the galaxy would have been in trouble. I'm kind of moving into the actual matchup now, but I think what I've determined is that IG-88 is able to process information at a speed equal to no other. And I really think that combined with his durable body and his weaponry systems, would make him a very, very difficult for HK-47. The Old Republic assassin droid really likes to take his targets out from far away. However, he has the difficulty of not knowing where the weak point in IG-88 is, and unless he uses a very, very powerful explosive-based weapon, he's probably not going to be able to take the droid out. IG-88 also has 360-degree view, advanced infrared sensors, and just really powerful vision, so he should be able to spot the threat from far away, close the distance, and I think he will be able to take HK-47 out from up close. I mean, we know that IG-88 is exceptionally strong and fast, and we know that he's probably at least as well armed as HK-47. All in all, I think there are two things that primarily give this battle to IG-88. One is 4,000 years of technological advancement, and although things do move slow in the Star Wars universe, 4,000 years is still a deal of time. And I believe IG-88 has the best programming and hardware available. Second, I think while HK-47 is more suited for killing organics and specifically Jedi, IG-88 is able to kill anything. So with that being said, I give IG-88 the victory, and I think he will win this one 8.5 times out of 10. The only real chance that HK-47 has is to stay away or get lucky with one of his special weapons. Also giving HK-47 a little bit of a chance just because I know that IG was killed by Dash Rendar and Boba Fett, and I would have thought that he would have been able to take at least Dash down. Anyways, thank you for watching this far. Take a second to vote in the upper right corner who you think would win the matchup, and I'm also going to put the poll results for last week's video on the screen so you can check that out. Anyways, thank you so much guys. As always, may the Force be with you.